Good evening and welcome to Chasing the Facts. I'm your host, Sam Chase. Today is February 16th, 2023, and with us this evening is Evelyn Thoren, who happens to be chairperson of the Arts Technology Education Fund, better known as ATEF, and also a member of the town's Permanent Building Committee. So we're going to talk about both situations as the show unfolds. But first, Evelyn, what we usually do, and oh, by the way, thank you for agreeing to appear. This is Evelyn's first time on the show. So
right, but it is not my first time in this arena.
No, it is not. Absolutely not. So what we try to do is start off the show with the guest giving us just a very brief biographical sketch, town service, whatever it is you want to talk about, and then we'll get into the discussion, so we'll turn it over to you for that.
Yeah, we were kind of joking at the beginning of the show about how long that would take, considering
Yes.
how much I've been involved. So as a quick overview, I grew up on the South Shore, and then in 1975 I got married, so people can do the math on how long I've been married. I have 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and we do a lot of projects and a lot of babysitting and a lot of cooking together. As far as the town goes, when we had the vote on the charter for 1989, then I became a town meeting rep, and I was there for, I think, 33 years. I took a short break, and I'm back again as a town meeting rep. I sat on a lot of committees as we go through my history, but people don't need to necessarily know my full resume, or that might take up the whole 30 minutes.
Well, I will say, I think 15 years on the school committee.
18.
Oh, see, I shortchanged you 3 years. 18 years on the school committee.
Yes, and because of the way that Trish handled how you are, what do you want to call it, sworn in, then I think I made it by 1 day or 2 days longer than anybody else.
Oh, good.
So depending upon how you like to interpret that. And besides being on the Chelmsford School Committee, I got myself involved at the Mass Association of School Committees, which is more like the state school committee. And they set a lot of policy and a lot of lobbying for all the rest of the school committees within the Commonwealth. They represent all kinds of different schools or regions. So they have, I think they have 9 divisions, and you have an urban division, you have a vocational technical division. So there's a lot, as far as that board of directors is concerned, they represent a cross-section of all education, not higher education, but all education in the public school system. The higher education is a different board. I wasn't involved in that. Some members were on that committee, so we got a different purview with regard to that. But all of that legislative activity is fascinating. But as a Division I chair, which was the region that I represented, our responsibilities were similar to a school committee. You were liaison to different things. You wanted to have workshops that were of current topics. And like I said, that, again, is a lot longer discussion, but I think I was there 7 years. And then when I came off the school committee, I could no longer be there, and then they made me a lifetime member. So if I want to attend anything, whether we're at Day on the Hill at the State House or the conference, and that, I can go, even though I'm not on a school committee. I would love to get back, but because of commitments with family, it's very, very difficult. But I did keep the Arts and Technology Education Fund in my wheelhouse.
Yes, you did.
Along with the Permanent Building Committee, just being a member. But the Arts and Technology Education Fund started as a discussion with Tony Volpe in 1995. And I was busy running for selectman. I lost twice, but that's okay because I ended up on the school committee. And in 1996, I partnered with George Ripsum, who was on the school committee in 1972, and we're familiar with George. I mean, he's in his 90s.
Yes.
And so the two of us came before the Board of Selectmen at the time. It's now called the Select Board. But they agreed to put a warrant on for that Springtown meeting. I think we're the only...
To establish the ATEF.
That's correct.
Right.
We are, and the warrant article, that you didn't have to do that. But the warrant article was a bylaw. So I think we are the only community in Massachusetts that actually has a bylaw that oversees what we do. Because the education fund at the state level was a home rule petition put in by John Billifer of Arlington. He was the town treasurer. And he initiated that as a scholarship fund. And he was able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for scholarships in Arlington. And then the Bedford town treasurer established and put in that caveat of having an education fund. So when George and I did that, we surveyed all of the communities. I think we surveyed 10, and I created a spreadsheet, and we did an actual presentation at town meeting. And how we receive our funds is through a tax checkoff. Now, if you get your real estate tax bills,
And you will get your real estate tax bills.
well, some
Trust
people
me.
get them. Some people get them through the bank. You know,
Yes.
they pay, or they have some mortgage agency that will pay their bills out of an escrow account that you pay into, or money is transferred into. But the excise tax bills, anyone that owns a vehicle in town, nobody's paying for those vehicles, so they will get that tax bill. And so what I did, I don't know. Well, anyway, I'll just show it, and if we can get a close-up at any point in time. I did bring the tax check off, and it explains a little bit about it.
You
I
can
think
point it towards
this one?
Jack. Maybe he can.
no, that's the
Oh, okay.
the,
See, now you know more
camera.
about this than I do.
and I'm on. Anyway, so in the bottom it has a check off, and that's if you want to make a specific donation, and if you want to round up your tax bill, you can do that also. I brought the last financial statement. I had been on the board, the select board, Monday evening just to announce that the applications are available for the 2023-24 school year. And in the finances, I
So
would...
let me just back up a minute, not to interrupt you, but as far as the funding, it is exclusively through the tax checkoff.
That's correct.
But if somebody decided they wanted to make a donation apart from that, could they do that?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So you don't have to, you have to do it through the town treasurer's office,
Yes.
because that's where our money is.
Right.
And you can have any amount that you want. And we can go into additional pieces of this
Okay.
as it unfolds as far as donating money.
But go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's not a problem.
All right.
And so we do get, when we have our meetings, we do get a financial sheet from Darlene Lucia, the town accountant. And on that, it will tell us what the deposits were and how much money to date, and then what the total amount is. But I wanted to make sure that people understood that if you rounded up your tax bill, and that's what I'm assuming are some of these numbers, 11 cents, 13 cents, 12 cents, $21.96, and then you have $39.26, and then you have some even numbers, like people gave $10 and $20. And then somebody rounded up, it was $193.77.
Oh, that was pretty
So people
generous.
are rounding up, and there weren't that many contributions. It does add up. So far to date, I think we have over $2,000, but we would like, obviously, to have more.
From this fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay,
Or since the last quarter.
Right.
I think they had it since
that's pretty good.
August, yes. This is in since July and August.
I mean, you think about it for a minute, folks. You're getting your tax bill in the mail, which nobody likes getting their property tax bill, and then Evelyn comes along and she says, hey, how about kicking in a few pennies more for ATEF? And people actually do it. That's incredible. It really is.
Yeah, I find some of this stuff fascinating. But if people were interested more in the education aspect of it and the few cents, because some of this isn't even going to buy you a cup of coffee.
Right.
Some of this it's a one-shot deal over a quarter, over 3 months. And if you're just rounding up that one time, 4 times a year, you might even only be at $1. But if everybody did that had access to the excise tax or the real estate tax bills, it would add up to a considerable amount.
Well, we
of
have
money.
over 13,000 properties in town, plus the vehicles, okay? So, yeah, you're talking a tremendous potential for people to
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
So, okay, so why do we call it the Arts, Technology, and Education Fund? What happens to the money?
Okay, so in 1996, after town meeting approved the warrant, Bernie Lynch was our town manager. And so there was an application process that went out for people that wanted to be on the committee. And I think at that time we had a 7-person committee. And the superintendent of schools is always a member, because that's by statute.
Is
by
he a
the Home
voting
Rule
member?
Petition. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, or their designee. So sometimes when Dr. Mosier didn't want to make it, he would, at one year, every meeting that we had, he would send one of the building principals.
Okay.
What that did is, that's a smart move.
Yeah, I
Not
think
just
so.
because he didn't want to attend the meetings, but because each building principal would have the opportunity of asking us and seeing exactly what we were doing, so that any staff members within their building that they were responsible for would be able to then have an understanding what they could apply for. So you have that establishment at that point in time, and when we started, we set criteria, and we had to come up with a name at one point, and we did arts and technology. It covers a wide range. We did have frequently asked questions, and we defined what that meant. It took us almost a year to define that, come up with the frequently asked questions, so that to give people more of an understanding, rather than just letting them wonder, what are you doing and where's my money going if I give it? And we also came up with the applications. Kit Harbison was very instrumental in that, because she had developed, or was part of the Cultural Council, because they were giving out grants also.
Oh, okay.
And so she used her expertise, and among others that we had on the committee. And we tried to have a criteria of the members, so that you had parents on there, you had community members, you had somebody that was older, somebody that was younger, and so you had a nice cross-section of the demographics of the community. So we wanted to be able to do that, which we did. We've since noticed that a lot of people don't want to be on the committee, so we have not gone ahead with that. And then we revised and updated that bylaw several years back and added 2 more members.
So you have 9.
9.
Okay.
But we do have a vacancy, so if anybody is interested, please apply through the town manager's office. It's his appointment, and approved by the select board.
Right.
So you asked me also about some of the awards that we've made. Do you have any other questions of me of the finances?
No, I think that's pretty straightforward, but I think we need to identify the target audience here for the award. So my understanding is, and I've heard you give the speech before the select board at least 15 times, so I probably remember about 10% of what you said. It goes to the academic teachers in the system. They are eligible to apply for these grants.
That is correct. There are a few.
So it's limited to them, pretty much.
It's limited to the staff of the Chelmsford Public School system.
Okay, all right.
At one point, when we had the charter school in town, because that's also a local educational agency by definition in the state, then they were allowed to apply.
Okay.
And they did apply, I think, twice, and they got 2 awards.
Good.
But we also, because we wanted accountability to the taxpayer, we have a project summary sheet. So before you can get another award, if you have received one, you have to fill out the project summary sheet, so we know what you did with the money.
So the teacher, whoever it is, applies, fills out the application, makes the application. It goes before the committee. And when do you start your committee meetings, typically within the fiscal year cycle?
So we usually have a meeting sometime in the first quarter of the year, the calendar year.
Okay, so-
Just to, if there's any changes that we need to make. Not always.
And I know you've already had your meeting.
Yes, but
because
that
I
was
know
to change the
I know
application.
somebody else who's on the committee. So.
Yes. So we had that particular meeting because we changed some of the application process. This year we're increasing the award to $1,000. We started with, I think we started with $250, went to $500, went to $750. And we've had that for a long time.
So that's a cap on the awards.
And then as far as who can apply, the staff can. But if there's, say through the PTO sees that staff members are coming to them and the staff knows that maybe they don't have enough money, they can come to us, but they're supplementing it. Okay. So sometimes it's not just $1,000. Sometimes it's more like $5,000 or $6,000, because I'm going to talk about one of the awards where they got $750, but the rest of it came out of other funds that the applicant had solicited. So
give us an idea of the flavor of the type of projects that you would consider favorably.
Right, but you asked me how often we meet, and so the deadline for the application is March 31st It has been since we started.
Okay.
Because you need to have an application. We have all of these applications online. You can go on the Chelmsford Public Schools site, or you can go on the town manager's site, and you just have to use the search engine for the Arts and Technology Education Fund application. If you have any difficulty in the school system finding it, please don't hesitate to call the superintendent's office or to call the town manager's office, and they will help guide you through that. So we used to have it date stamped. Now what we do is most of them I'm getting electronically, which is nice because then I don't have to copy them and waste all that paper. We just forward them and people can screen through those in the month of April. And we usually meet either at the end of April, which we do this year. Our meeting is April 27th, and then we'll see what applications we have at that point. But we usually meet in May, and then we make the awards at the first Select Boards meeting in June.
Okay, so just to recap for the, make sure that the audience understands, the Arts and Technology Education Fund is a legally constituted committee within the town government framework, subject to general state law, subject completely to the open meeting law process. Just as if they were select board or school committee or anything else, they have to follow the same rules. So the meetings are posted, publicly posted, 48 hours in advance of the meeting, and minutes have to be taken, and the meetings are open to the public. So just that folks understand that that's what we're talking about.
Right, we've never really had the general public come on occasion over all those years.
Amazing.
We've had it, but it's not, usually we have a meeting for 30 minutes, an hour.
And you're not televised.
No, we don't need to be.
Right.
Many times we have our meetings where the school committee meets at central administration. It's a nice large room, and that in the past we had interviews with people. We would schedule interviews. When we had COVID, we went back to how we first started. Is that if everyone agreed in the meeting, if everybody agreed that this particular award fit the criteria and the screening process that we go through in the Chelmsford Public School administration offices, that's another whole piece, then we could award that without the interview. Many of the members like the interviews because they want to meet the applicants. It's exciting when some of the teachers come because they're very excited about what it is that they're doing.
And you have some former teachers, I believe, on your committee, and you yourself are a former teacher, so you're in a position to to really understand what's going on in terms of the applications and what the educational value or impact would be if these projects were funded and were able to be implemented.
Right, and we take a lot of care and caution with what it is we're doing, because this is taxpayers' money.
Exactly.
I mean, when I was on the school committee, I did the same thing, so it isn't outside my character. But we want to make sure that we've done it this way, because at the beginning, there were people that didn't want us to exist. Now, over the years, since that's pretty much passed, we're still doing the same thing, our due diligence, but we don't have as much opposition. We have an awful lot of support. So as we're moving forward with this, you have different ones within the school system that will apply. Sometimes you have a department head or a curriculum coordinator or a building principal that sees that there's a need someplace, or the teacher needs to definitely make sure with their building principal or with their curriculum coordinator that they are asking whether or not there's any funds available in the budget for what it is that they're thinking up. Because we're getting things that really should be funded through the budget, so they will not be funded through us. So sometimes we're a conduit for those applications to actually find funding, because the teacher or the staff member hasn't really gone out to see if the funds are there, but we find them for them, or working through the...
They don't know how to do that. That's not their...
Not always, but they really should be part of a budget process to know what it is, and they do. At least when I was a teacher, I had to put in a budget for my major. I mean, I taught high school chemistry. See, I neglected all my education background, but in my profile at the beginning. So you have an understanding of what the budget is and the constraints of the budget. One of the things we don't want to support, okay, we don't support stipends. We don't support clubs or the coaches. And we're getting to a point where we're not going to support furniture. Sometimes they ask for special chairs for special education. So there are things that we will not be doing. So that's why they need to ask their building principals if it's something that can be within the budget that's going to aid them in their classroom. This is a fund designed to support the curriculum. And it could be in a program, it could be an event, it could be equipment, or it could be supplies. So some of the examples of what it is that we have given. We have a CHIPS program, the Chelmsford Integrated Preschool Program, and Mary Ellen Forty is the one that usually is applying for funds for items that will support her program. It's not big. Sometimes it's only $250. She doesn't meet that $1,000. You don't have to meet the $1,000 or the $750. You can have anything underneath that you want. Or if you've made it up big in other areas and they can't give any more, then sometimes we can make up the difference. So it doesn't have to be the whole amount. And sometimes we don't award the whole amount they ask for. They might ask for 5 of something, and we say, you know what, it's brand new, let's support 3 of them if you want to do this. So we're discretionary also in how we make the monetary award. It just isn't a blanket stamp, you're done. So we review that because we're limited with the funds we can give because of how much we've been given by the taxpayers. And those taxpayers are anonymous. We don't know who is giving it. And so she has a number of things that she's done, and that program now is home at Westlands. We had a music teacher at Center that wanted to have a piano lab. And he came through to us, but his total amount he wanted was, say, like $5,000. So he just wanted $750 because he was making up the difference as he went.
Okay.
And we thought that was a great idea to be able to do that because obviously we can't, I mean, I'd love to be able to give out all kinds of money. We do have a base we keep, which I'll talk about if I remember it before we end. Over a number of years, at Byam School, they developed a reading closet. So they made a closet into like a mini library where teachers, could take out books, kids could take out books and that. And then they had, it was almost like a long-range plan, or short-range, depending upon what your definition. So like, say, over 5 years, they had different parts that they applied every year. And because they were building on it and we knew what they were doing, we awarded them the money in order to complete that. I don't know what the status is of it currently. We had a teacher that applied for clickers because sometimes students don't want to raise their hand. Sometimes she wants to know immediately what every student the answer is from each one of them, not just the person that raises their hand. And so they had the clickers like we have at town meeting that records the vote.
Right.
So there would be a clicker, and we did that. And shortly after that, then the town manager, I don't know if Paul actually saw this, but it was an idea that would be a way in which to make all town meeting reps accountable, is to have the clickers. And then just like at the federal level and the state level,
it's a great
your
idea.
vote is recorded.
Yep,
so we had that, and we haven't had too many of those since then. We have supported the music program quite a bit with ukuleles, and there was some drums and music, sheet music itself. You had, when one of the former music teachers had come many years in a row. She had different events and programs, and she was using our fund on which to help support those particular events and programs within the music department. And like I said, we have partial grants. We've had special education teachers come in, and one of them was a pen, and then I think there were headphones with it. It was a student that was dyslexic, and as the pen went over the words, they could hear, and so they were able to actually read through the pen of what was happening. Technology is wonderful. When we first started, it was all digital cameras, and when we realized that there was a trend, we said, since everybody wants these, it needs to be in the budget. So we have noticed trends. Elmo cameras was another one. One year we got 1. The next year was like 6. We said, all right, you guys need to put this in your program and in your budget of the technology department. We're not doing Chromebooks. We don't do iPads. There's a lot of things because that's part of the technology of the schools. So if anybody has any questions, if you're listening and you're saying, gee, I'd like to make an application for this, but I'm not sure if my idea is good, they can easily message me on Facebook, or they can, my phone number and email and everything is in the town on
the directory.
On the directory, so they can certainly get a hold of me. So that's a little bit what it is. And like I said, we do partial grants. One of the things that I'm looking at is the possibility that if anybody has money that they want to actually set up a separate award, we don't provide for that currently, but that doesn't mean we can't. So if, like, and we're not doing scholarships, and we're not trying to run competition with the Alumni Association or the Chelmsford Scholarship Association either. But if somebody wanted to have a specific award for science of some sort, or chemistry if something comes up in there, or something to do with the arts if something comes up with music. When we have our next meeting, I'm going to ask, and we're going to take a look at the bylaw to see if there's opportunity to be able to expand this, because we're limited with how we can have our funds.
Right.
I mean, we've given away, $100,000, and that's over a lot of years. And over 100 awards.
The thing that I find interesting that I hadn't really realized until you just mentioned it, although you've probably said it before, that your activity can be a precursor to something actually being incorporated permanently into a budget item.
Yes.
And that to me is
that's
very...
the innovativeness
that's
of the staff
a very
members.
Interesting concept. And so you're actually what we would say in the industry that I came from, we would say proof of concept, okay? So that's what you're doing in some regards to the arts. And I think I hadn't really thought about that, but that's just a very interesting concept.
Right, well, we do not, we are not a fund that supports the budget.
Right, exactly.
This is separate from the budget. But when the awards are made, the items, if it's equipment or supplies or something tangible.
Well, it helps establish a need. I think if you keep getting the same kind of request over and over again, or something that's very similar, then that kind of triggers your brain to say, wait a minute, this is something that they really ought to be.
Right, and we noticed it mostly with technology.
Right.
But we also make sure that whatever it is that we have awarded of an item, that becomes the property of the Chelmsford Public Schools.
Yes.
Because if it doesn't, then we have to take that money and create a 1099 for the teacher. That's why we decided to go through the town treasurer's office in order to make the awards, so that they're not generating all these 1099s for all these teachers.
This is a very tightly managed and controlled program, as you said, through the town treasurer's office. And of course, the school would retain title to any property that is generated. So I don't mean to cut you short.
No, I was going to move
We've
on.
got 3 minutes, and less than 3 minutes, and we wanted to talk about the permanent building
Well, I
committee,
can give a
but-
brief synopsis of
Yep.
that.
You'll have to come back.
Yeah. We usually meet once a month. It's one of the shortest, currently, one of the shortest meetings that we ever have, because it's to the point. The Department of Public Works usually does a lot of the work. We're not monitoring budgets as far as creating them. All of the proposals are created and then they come to us. Currently, what's in the queue is we're going to get an update on all the options of what we're going to do with the remaining fire stations.
Yes.
We did the North Fire Station. Obviously, we've got the Center Fire Station
Is
done.
that study complete, or is it close to being completed? Do you know?
Well, I think that there's two different entities here, and one is the study on the fire stations themselves, is whether or not we're going to consolidate anything. But
okay,
we'll
right.
find out what the report at the next meeting, and they're going to give the options of what to do with engine 3, 4, and 5. 5 is limited because it's a small area, so we were discussing that at our last meeting. So right now we're looking at that.
Yeah, Center, the headquarters is off the table, and North Chelmsford's off the table. So, the question is, what do we do with the remaining 3?
Right, and we're looking at the least amount of money to spend and to try to do as much within budget that we can, and that's through the town manager and the town treasurer. And as we go through it, there's a lot of questions that we ask because you have people that have construction background. I get in it because I happen to like to build things, and there's people that do
And
a
you're
lot more
very
work
good
than
at
me. But there's people that do a lot more work on this committee than I do, and I'm
What's the
very
membership, the number of folks on the committee?
I don't remember, but I know that we need people on that committee.
So there are
also.
vacancies, all right.
Yes.
So if you have any kind of a building background, or like Evelyn said, you're just interested in that type of process, make application. Again, it's a town manager appointment approved by the select board. So you would go up online and you would get an application, or if you're not comfortable doing that, call the town manager's office. They'll mail you an application. You can fill it out the old-fashioned way and get your name before the get into the approval process. So Well, I wish we had more time. We'll have you back because I do want to explore the building situation in a little bit more detail, because I think people are interested in development in general and building in particular in town. So anyway, Evelyn, thanks a lot for being on.
Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to some more because 30 minutes goes by real fast.
That's why I do it.
Yep, as we know at City Life, 2 hours goes by fast.
2 hours is an eternity when you're doing an interview show. That is for sure. So, folks, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much, and look forward to the next time you're on.